Change is hard, but you don't have to stay stuck. Right now, you have the chance to take control, shift your habits, and transform the way you handle challenges every single day. In this audiobook, you'll learn practical steps to overcome resistance, build consistent action, and make lasting improvements even when life feels overwhelming. You'll discover how to break down tough situations, replace excuses with real strategies, and turn small efforts into meaningful progress. Every tip is designed to be applied immediately, helping you see results in your routines, your mindset, and your ability to stay disciplined under pressure. By the end, you'll have actionable tools to take charge of your life and create the change you want. Subscribe to Audiobook every day for more strategies that make growth simple, realistic, and achievable. Number 1. Shift beliefs to escape poverty. There is a quiet voice inside that sets the rules for how life is allowed to unfold. That voice names what is possible and what is not, what is safe and what is dangerous, what deserves attention and what can be ignored. When that voice believes scarcity is normal, the body tightens, choices narrow, and survival becomes the dominant story. Breaking free begins with shifting that voice. This chapter shows how to do that with clear, practical steps grounded in discipline, honesty, and steady action. Change does not begin with money. It begins with what the mind accepts as true. Beliefs are habits. They live in the same places. Habits live in repeated thought, in the stories told when alone, in the assumptions made before speaking up, in the tiny behaviors repeated without notice. The first practical step is a quiet, thorough inventory. For 3 days, carry a small notebook or a notes app and write down every self-directed thought about money that surfaces. Do not edit. Capture how the stomach tightens when a bill arrives, the words that come up when comparing with others, the way decisions are explained away. This is the raw material. Seeing it on paper strips the power of its invisibility. It is no longer an invisible force. It becomes a list that can be tested, challenged, and changed. Next, treat each belief like a hypothesis that can be proven true or false. Pick one recurring thought, for example, I will always be broke, or I am bad with money. Create a simple evidence log for 2 weeks. Every time reality provides a counterexample, a day when rent was paid, a small bill covered, a skill and a bit saved, write it down. If no counterexamples appear, write down why that might be. Did the belief create behaviors that prevented evidence? Did the belief stop an action that could have led to different outcomes? This is not a game of blame. This is a disciplined diagnosis. Stoic practice asks, which things are within your control right now? The thought can be within control. The action based on the thought is within control. The evidence is concrete. An effective reframe is to convert absolute statements into testable plans. Instead of I can never save, write, I will test saving 1% of income for 30 days. Instead of I will never get ahead, write, I will learn one marketable skill and practice it weekly for 90 days. The mind resists absolutes because they feel like final judgment. A test invites experimentation and removes the paralysis of perfection. Small, measurable tests build contrary evidence faster than wishful thinking. Daily rituals anchor new beliefs. Begin mornings with a short practice that brings the mind into active agency. This can be as brief as 3 minutes. Breathe deeply, name one belief to challenge today, and state one tiny actionable step you will take that proves a different story. For example, belief to challenge money is unstable. Proof action, leave a small amount in a separate envelope today. The ritual should be sensory. Feel the paper, Notice the weight of coins. Hear the zipper close on a savings envelope. Stoic discipline emphasizes the body as a partner in change. The senses make abstract beliefs tangible. Language matters. Replace vague, catastrophic words with specific, neutral phrases. Always and never are mind traps. Catch them when they appear and substitute precise terms. If a thought arises, "I always blow my money," respond with, "In the last 6 months, there were 3 days when I overspent. On those days, I did X. On other days, I did Y." This practice reduces the drama and opens a clearer field for action. It also trains the mind to look for patterns rather than moralize behavior. Create a counterproof list on 1 page. For each limiting belief, list 3 concrete counterexamples from your life or from people you know. If examples are hard to find, start with hypothetical but plausible steps that could create evidence quickly. Sell an unused item, teach a skill for a small fee, negotiate a bill, then act on one of those steps within 72 hours. The goal is to replace narrative with data. Every action that produces a small win becomes a new line in the counterproof list. The list grows, and the voice in the head loses certainty. Control what can be controlled. Stoicism divides reality into what can and cannot be controlled. Beliefs, reactions, preparation, and small daily habits are controllable. External income sources and market conditions are not fully controllable. Direct attention and effort toward what is controllable. If the belief says, "I need more money to live differently," respond with a clear plan. Identify one skill that can be learned in the next 30 days. Commit to practicing it 30 minutes daily, and list 3 potential first clients or places to apply that skill. Concrete steps dissolve the abstraction of need. Design a simple daily money habit that is impossible to skip. The habit must be tiny and specific. For example, each evening, place 1 physical currency unit into a savings jar, or transfer a single fixed small amount to a savings account. Another example, each payday, immediately send 1% to a separate account before any other expenses. These tiny acts build neural pathways for belief change because the body repeats the new behavior and the brain updates the story. "I am the kind of person who saves." Over time, those tiny habits compound into credible identity changes. Create friction for old habits. If a limiting belief leads to impulsive purchases, slow the decision. Use a 24-hour rule before non-essential purchases. If the urge persists after a day, allow a small portion of the planned purchase up to a cap. That rule interrupts automatic behavior and gives the thoughtful mind space to act. Rules are silent partners that enforce discipline when emotion is loud. Surroundings shape belief. Make a small, intentional edit to the environment. Remove one item that triggers wasteful spending or negative comparison and replace it with one thing that supports growth. This could be a stack of library books on practical skills, a visible notebook with the evidence log, or a sign by the door with a single instruction, 1% today. The change is not about consumption, it is about signaling. Your environment should whisper the new story to you throughout the day. Modeling is fast belief therapy. Spend time, even briefly, with people who hold the belief you want. Observe how they handle money, how they speak about it, what rituals they have. If direct access is not possible, read short interviews, listen to podcasts, or watch videos of people who lived on little and still maintained dignity and growth. Pay attention to their language, not to their lifestyle, how they describe choices, how they frame scarcity, how they respond to setbacks. These patterns are teachable. Emulate one pattern for 30 days and note the results. Build small public accountability. Announce one test you will run to a trusted person and set a check-in date. The social cost of failing will sharpen effort. Choose someone who does not respond with judgment, but with tough-minded support. Accountability harnesses social force for personal transformation. It is not about shame. It is about aligning inner intent with outer witness. Manage emotional weather with preparation. Premeditate the obstacles that will trigger old beliefs and rehearse responses. If a bill arrives unexpectedly, rehearse the script. Breathe 2 deep breaths. Read the evidence log for 2 minutes. Then decide the immediate action. Call the creditor, offer a payment plan, sell a small item. This sequence removes drama and replaces it with procedure. Stoic practice calls this preparation for adversity. Prepared minds act from strategy rather than panic. Finally, practice daily reflection with precision. End each day by writing 3 things: 1 belief challenged, 1 action taken that supported a new belief, and 1 clear next step for tomorrow. Keep entries short and focused. Over weeks, these entries form a visible record of transformation. The record shows patterns, progress, and the slow accumulation of new identity. Belief change is not comfortable. Old beliefs fight like anchors. The discipline required is not glamorous. The work is small and steady. A notebook, a short morning ritual, tiny savings, a practice of evidence, friction around temptation, and daily reflection. The Stoic temperament meets hardship with calm and chooses what can be controlled. This is the essence of escaping the poverty mindset. It is not about pretending scarcity is not matter. It is about refusing to be governed by it. Begin with the inventory. Name the beliefs. Test one with a 30-day experiment. Keep a log. Design 1 tiny habit that proves a different story. Surround the mind with signals of possibility. Rehearse responses to hard moments. Record the small wins. Over time, the voice in the head will change its tone. It will stop ordering life around fear and start offering options. The outward life follows that inner logic. When thoughts shift, behavior follows, and slowly, the world that once seemed fixed opens into a field of choices that can be navigated with skill, dignity, and steady courage. Number 2. Track every expense with honesty. The foundation of financial transformation is not how much money comes in, but how clearly you see where every unit of it goes. Awareness is the gateway to control, and control is the beginning of freedom. Many people live in a fog, believing they know where their money disappears, yet their habits reveal a different story. Tracking every expense is the act of removing that fog, replacing assumptions with clarity, and giving yourself the power to act with intention. It is not about shame, guilt, or judgment. It is about raw, unflinching honesty with yourself. Start by choosing a method that will not be ignored. Whether it is a notebook, a spreadsheet, or a dedicated app, it must be convenient enough to use consistently. The easier it is to record each expense, the more faithfully it will be done. The goal is not aesthetics or perfection. It is complete capture of every outflow. If a purchase is missed, the record is incomplete, and the patterns cannot emerge. Total honesty is essential. Every cup of coffee, every bus fare, every snack matters, because the small leaks add up and form the narrative of your financial reality. Every time money leaves your hands, note it immediately. Record the amount, the item, the date, and the category. Categories can be simple: essential needs, discretionary spending, debt repayment, savings, and miscellaneous. Over time, these categories will reveal patterns that were invisible before. You will see the difference between spending that is aligned with priorities and spending that merely fills a temporary craving. That differentiation is crucial, because clarity is the precursor to choice. Without awareness, spending is reactive, guided by emotion and habit, rather than by strategy and intention. Once a week, review the record in detail. Do not rush. Look at the totals, the frequency, and the types of purchases. Ask questions. Which expenses bring lasting value? Which are impulsive? Where is money leaking silently? This is not about self-punishment. It is about understanding the mechanics of your financial life. Patterns that previously seemed random will begin to emerge. These patterns are powerful. They reveal where discipline is needed, where opportunities to save exist, and where your mindset may still be governed by old scarcity habits. Use this insight to design micro-adjustments. If you notice daily coffee runs account for more than a small percentage of weekly income, plan alternatives, brew at home, reduce frequency, or consolidate funds for a larger purpose. If impulse buying online is a recurring pattern, institute a rule. Pause for 24 hours before purchase, remove saved payment details, or create a small delay ritual. Every small adjustment counts, because the consistent application of small changes creates momentum. Awareness plus immediate correction is far more powerful than abstract budgeting without visibility. Set realistic, measurable targets for savings or spending reduction. Start with something achievable, even if it seems minor. For example, redirect 5% of monthly discretionary spending into a dedicated savings account. Track this along with other expenses to reinforce accountability. Progress is reinforced when the numbers on paper begin to tell a new story. When you see the accumulation of small wins, the mind accepts the possibility of control, replacing old fatalistic beliefs with evidence-based confidence. Growth is built incrementally, and visible tracking magnifies the effect. Be vigilant about hidden or recurring expenses. Subscriptions, automatic payments, and small charges that accumulate quietly can distort the financial picture. Each month, review bank statements line by line. Note items that recur unnoticed and ask whether they align with current goals. Cancel, adjust, or consolidate as needed. Honest tracking includes uncovering the hidden flows that silently erode financial stability. Understanding the full spectrum of expenditures is essential because half measures cannot sustain change. Precision matters. Integrate sensory awareness into tracking. Note not just amounts, but the emotional context of spending. Did you buy a snack out of hunger, boredom, stress, or habit? Did a purchase feel necessary or fleetingly satisfying? Recording the emotion alongside the numbers develops insight into behavioral patterns. This is the practice of disciplined observation, linking action to context, data to feeling. Over time, emotional triggers become evident, giving power to interrupt cycles before they dictate behavior. Financial discipline is as much about psychology as it is about arithmetic. Create weekly reflections on spending habits. At the end of each week, summarize the lessons. What patterns dominated? Where did you act with intention? Where did you fail to follow through? Documenting reflection keeps the process dynamic rather than mechanical. It turns tracking from a passive list into an active tool for personal growth. Through reflection, the numbers stop being abstract. They become feedback. The mind learns to associate conscious choice with real outcomes, forming neural pathways that reinforce disciplined behavior. Pair accountability with tracking. Share your progress with a trusted individual or join a small group committed to financial awareness. Reporting numbers, even in a simple factual manner, creates external validation for internal effort. The social layer introduces gentle pressure to stay consistent and brings perspective. It is easier to see mistakes, receive guidance, and celebrate small wins when others witness your process. Accountability transforms private discipline into a shared commitment, strengthening resolve. Combine tracking with forward planning. The habit of recording past expenditures naturally feeds into projections for the future. Once you have a full picture of where money goes, design a realistic plan for the upcoming month. Allocate funds to essential needs first, plan for savings next, and then assign discretionary funds intentionally. This proactive planning reduces stress, increases confidence, and strengthens the perception of control. The habit of looking backward with honesty prepares the mind to look forward strategically. Maintain integrity with every entry. Avoid rounding, estimating, or hiding purchases, no matter how trivial. Each detail contributes to a comprehensive picture. Honesty is a discipline. The act of faithfully recording every cent cultivates personal integrity that extends into other areas of life. Self-respect grows when actions are aligned with truth, and truth becomes the lens through which decisions are made. This alignment is a cornerstone of escaping scarcity-driven habits. Track not only expenses but also small wins. Record every time a purchase is avoided, every time money is redirected to savings, every time you exercise restraint. Recognizing victories reinforces the brain's reward pathways. Change is not only about reduction, it is about acknowledgement of agency. Documenting these wins counteracts the tendency to focus only on shortcomings and fosters resilience, proving that consistent effort leads to tangible results. Create a visual map of spending. Charts, graphs, or simple color coding can transform raw numbers into a story. Seeing trends visually makes them undeniable. It becomes clear where attention is required and where progress has been made. Visual feedback accelerates learning, clarifies priorities, and strengthens motivation. The brain responds to tangible patterns more quickly than abstract totals, making the act of seeing a map of behavior both informative and inspiring. Use the tracking process to challenge limiting beliefs. Each honest record can refute the mind's old narratives. If the mind whispers, "I can never manage money," the record speaks back. In the past month, I tracked every expense, adhered to the plan, and increased savings by X%. Concrete evidence undermines fatalism. Every tracked dollar becomes a data point against scarcity thinking. The truth is in the record, and repeated observation trains the mind toward possibility. Finally, accept that initial discomfort is normal. Tracking every expense feels tedious at first, even intrusive. Resist the urge to abandon the process. With persistence, it becomes a form of empowerment rather than a chore. The clarity gained transforms decision-making from reactive to deliberate. Over time, the practice shifts the relationship with money, from anxiety and avoidance to understanding, agency, and steady confidence. Honest expense tracking is not merely accounting. It is a daily exercise in self-awareness, responsibility, and discipline. It transforms scattered, reactive behavior into deliberate, intentional action. Every purchase recorded, every review conducted, and every reflection completed reinforces a new identity, one of control, clarity, and capability. Over weeks and months, the fog lifts, revealing where money can be redirected, what habits require attention, and how small, consistent actions compound into measurable stability. Tracking expenses with honesty is the crucible in which poverty thinking is challenged, reshaped, and replaced with practical, actionable control, creating the foundation for long-term financial empowerment. This practice is the bridge between scarcity and mastery, between reactive survival and deliberate living. Through relentless honesty, unwavering observation, and precise reflection, financial control becomes inevitable. Every expense tracked is a step toward freedom. Number 3. Cut once. Prioritize real needs. Living with limited income requires precision, clarity, and ruthless honesty about what truly matters. The distinction between wants and needs is not abstract. It is the difference between survival, stability, and stagnation versus waste, distraction, and frustration. Every dollar has potential power, but that power is dissipated when spent on transient pleasures or external validation. Learning to prioritize essential needs while consciously limiting wants is both a practical skill and a mindset shift. It begins with awareness, followed by disciplined choice, and is reinforced by constant reflection and adjustment. The first step is to define needs clearly. Needs are those things necessary for physical survival, functional living, and the ability to pursue longer-term goals. Shelter, food, basic clothing, transportation, and access to work or education fall into this category. Beyond the immediate physical requirements, consider psychological and social needs. Stability, connection, personal growth, and a sense of dignity. The clearer the definition, the easier it becomes to separate real requirements from optional desires. Clarity is empowering because it creates a framework for every financial decision. Simultaneously, write down your wants without filtering. These are desires that feel urgent in the moment, but are not essential to survival or growth. Gadgets, entertainment subscriptions, dining out, brand name items, impulse purchases, these belong in the wants category. Seeing them in writing makes the contrast with needs stark. Often, the mind has grown accustomed to conflating wants with necessities. By externalizing these desires, it becomes possible to evaluate them dispassionately. Writing them down removes the fog of habit and emotion, leaving facts on the table for analysis. Once both lists exist, adopt a ruthless lens of prioritization. Ask of each want, does this provide long-term value? Does it support my well-being, skill growth, or ability to generate income? If the answer is no, it is a candidate for elimination or delay. This is not a temporary sacrifice. It is a permanent adjustment in habits until financial stability or goals are achieved. The practice of deliberate choice strengthens self-discipline and rewires instinctual responses. Every avoided impulse is a small victory that compounds over time, reducing stress and creating resources for real priorities. Establish clear boundaries around discretionary spending. If there is a category of wants that occasionally bring significant joy, allocate a fixed, minimal portion of income to it. Set this allocation in advance, not in the heat of desire. This transforms spending into a conscious act rather than a reactive habit. Boundaries remove the risk of unplanned indulgence, keeping the majority of resources focused on essentials. The key is consistency. A small, predictable indulgence is far less destructive than sporadic, emotionally driven splurges. The process of cutting wants also requires confronting social pressures. Marketing, peer influence, and societal norms constantly signal that more is better, that happiness is purchased. Recognize these signals as external noise, not internal necessity. Question each impulse through a simple filter. Is this spending aligned with my survival, growth, or stability? If not, it is likely an artificial pressure that can be resisted. Strength is built not in the absence of temptation, but in facing it consciously, repeatedly, and refusing its control over decisions. Learn to find satisfaction in simplicity. Wants often promise joy, but deliver fleeting pleasure. By consciously limiting them, attention shifts to experiences and actions that provide sustainable value. Preparing a meal at home instead of ordering out, walking or biking for exercise instead of paying for convenience, repurposing items instead of buying new ones. All these choices cultivate resourcefulness. The mind begins to associate fulfillment with competence and intentional action rather than immediate gratification. This internal satisfaction reinforces disciplined behavior and strengthens resilience under financial constraints. Implement a decision. Pause for non-essential spending. When a want surfaces, delay action for a predetermined period, such as 24 or 48 hours. During this time, reflect on the purpose and necessity of the purchase. Often, the initial urgency diminishes, revealing that the desire was temporary or situational. This pause turns reaction into reflection, instinct into conscious choice, and reduces the risk of habitual overspending. The practice is both mental and emotional training, teaching the mind that fulfillment is not tied to impulsive consumption. Evaluate recurring expenses critically. Subscriptions, memberships, and routine habits that drift into the category of wants often go unnoticed. Scrutinize each. Does it contribute tangible, ongoing benefit? If not, cancel or suspend it. This audit often uncovers significant savings that were previously invisible. The exercise of evaluation itself strengthens analytical thinking and self-control, reinforcing a mindset attuned to efficiency and priority rather than indulgence and habit. Allocate freed resources toward essentials and growth. Money that would have gone to minor wants can now secure stability, build emergency savings, or invest in skill development. Even minimal investments in personal growth yield exponential returns over time. For example, a fraction saved each month can cover books, courses, or tools that improve earning potential. This deliberate redirection transforms past waste into productive action. The practice reinforces the idea that discipline is not deprivation, but an investment in autonomy, competence, and future opportunity. Use sensory awareness to monitor desires. Notice the physiological and emotional reactions that arise when a want presents itself. A tight stomach, restless fingers, sudden excitement, or urgency are all signals that the mind is being pulled by impulse rather than logic. Observe without judgment. Label the response and consciously redirect attention to essentials or productive action. Awareness of the body's cues creates space for rational decision-making, transforming reactive spending into deliberate behavior. Introduce a weekly reflection ritual. At the end of each week, review spending and categorize it into needs and wants. Celebrate success where wants were limited, and identify areas for improvement where impulse prevailed. Reflection not only reinforces accountability but trains foresight, allowing better preparation for challenges in the coming week. Small, consistent reflection turns temporary adjustments into lasting habits and gradually rewires instinctual responses to desire. Design environmental cues to support priorities. Remove items from immediate view that encourage unnecessary spending and place visible reminders of essential goals. This can be a note on the fridge, a visual tracker for savings, or keeping work-related materials at hand. The environment serves as a silent partner in disciplined living, nudging attention toward meaningful action rather than distraction. Thoughtful arrangement reduces cognitive load and strengthens habit formation, allowing self-control to operate without constant conscious effort. Reframe scarcity mindset triggers. When a want seems urgent, question its necessity through a long-term perspective. Consider the opportunity cost. What could this money achieve if redirected toward essentials or skill building? This mental exercise transforms spending from emotional reaction to strategic choice. The process develops patience and foresight, teaching that immediate pleasure is rarely worth undermining stability or potential growth. The practice of weighing cost versus value trains the mind to operate strategically rather than reactively. Build micro goals that reward disciplined behavior. Each week, track instances where a want was resisted and celebrate small victories with acknowledgement rather than indulgence. Recognition reinforces neural pathways associated with restraint, turning control into a self-reinforcing habit. These micro-goals serve as evidence that disciplined choice is achievable, motivating continued adherence to essential priorities. Incremental reinforcement is more sustainable than relying on abstract motivation or external validation. Understand that cutting wants is not about self-denial but about resource allocation. Wants are not inherently negative. The issue is when they compromise survival, stability, or growth. By consciously prioritizing, every decision becomes intentional. Resources are preserved for what truly matters, building resilience against emergencies, financial shocks, or unplanned expenses. Discipline creates surety, enables freedom. Freedom allows the pursuit of long-term goals. This chain begins with clarity about what is necessary and what is optional. Finally, embed these practices into daily life until they become instinctive. Each day presents opportunities to distinguish needs from wants, to delay impulse, to redirect resources toward priorities. Over months, the repeated acts of conscious choice reshape habits, beliefs, and identity. The mind no longer automatically chases transient pleasure. It recognizes value, prioritizes durability, and responds with skillful action. The habit of disciplined prioritization becomes a compass, guiding every decision with intention, reducing stress, and creating the foundation for financial stability and personal growth. Cutting wants and prioritizing real needs is a practice of clarity, discipline, and intentional living. It transforms reactive behavior into deliberate choice, scarcity into strategy, and consumption into meaningful action. The consistent application of these principles rewires the mind to recognize value, cultivates resilience, and creates a platform for long-term success. Every avoided impulse, every redirected dollar, and every conscious decision strengthens autonomy and builds a life guided by purpose, rather than fleeting desire. Mastery over wants is the key to controlling resources, creating stability, and paving the way for financial freedom. Number 4. Build one income-growing skill. Financial stability does not emerge from wishful thinking or hoping for luck. It comes from competence, applied consistently over time, and the ability to produce value that others recognize and are willing to compensate. When income is limited, the single most impactful strategy is to focus on building one skill that has the potential to increase earnings, open opportunities, and create leverage. Specialization matters because scattered effort rarely produces results, while concentrated, deliberate work compounds. Mastery of one skill is more valuable than superficial familiarity with many. This process is both practical and transformative because it shifts focus from scarcity to capability. Begin by assessing what the market or your environment values. Identify skills that have demand, are learnable within your current constraints, and can realistically generate income. Examples might include digital skills such as graphic design, coding, or social media management, trades such as carpentry, plumbing, or electrical work, service-oriented skills like writing, editing, or tutoring, or operational competencies like bookkeeping, project management, or customer service. The goal is not to choose something trendy or glamorous, but something actionable, practical, and monetizable. Demand is the deciding factor. A skill without value in the marketplace cannot produce meaningful income. Next, evaluate personal aptitude and interest. While market demand matters, the likelihood of mastery depends on engagement and persistence. Choose a skill that aligns with your strengths or interests enough to sustain effort over weeks and months. Repetition and discipline are necessary for skill development, and interest fuels consistency. Even modest enjoyment of the process is sufficient. The key is persistence, not passion alone. Identify one skill where effort can realistically be applied daily without burnout or distraction. Once a skill is chosen, break it down into measurable, actionable components. Identify the sub-skills, tools and techniques required for competence. For example, learning web design involves understanding HTML, CSS, layout principles, and basic user experience. Break down each component into achievable goals with timelines. Clear targets prevent overwhelm and create a sense of progress. This segmentation transforms a large, intimidating objective into a series of concrete, manageable tasks. Each small success builds confidence and reinforces the habit of focused, purposeful work. Design a daily practice schedule. Consistent repetition is critical. Dedicate a specific, uninterrupted block of time each day to learning and practicing the skill. Even 30 to 60 minutes of focused effort compounds when applied without fail. Early consistency matters more than speed. Small, persistent action over weeks produces noticeable improvement, while sporadic effort yields minimal results. Discipline in scheduling communicates to the mind that skill development is non-negotiable. Consistency transforms abstract potential into tangible competence. Combine learning with immediate application. Theory alone is insufficient. Practical use embeds knowledge and exposes gaps. Seek opportunities to practice with real-world tasks, even if stakes are low. For example, offer to design a small website for a friend, provide free proofreading for a local business, or complete small coding projects. Each completed task produces evidence of progress and creates a portfolio that can be shown to potential clients or employers. Application accelerates mastery because it forces problem-solving and adaptation under real conditions. Document progress meticulously. Track daily achievements, challenges, and insights. Maintaining a log of completed tasks, mistakes corrected, and skills learned creates a tangible record of development. Reflection deepens understanding, reinforces learning, and reveals patterns for improvement. A documented record also serves as motivation when progress feels slow. Seeing the accumulation of small wins confirms that competence is growing and reinforces the habit of persistent effort. Seek feedback from experienced practitioners. Learning in isolation slows growth because blind spots remain invisible. Identify mentors, colleagues, online communities, or forums where constructive criticism is available. Apply feedback systematically to improve technique, efficiency, and quality. Accepting critique requires humility and discipline, yet it accelerates development more than unstructured practice. The feedback loop transforms raw effort into intelligent, adaptive learning, ensuring that practice leads to mastery rather than repetition of errors. Identify opportunities to monetize the skill as soon as basic competence is achieved. Waiting for perfection delays results unnecessarily. Even early-stage skill can provide income if applied strategically. Freelance work, small local projects, microservices, or online platforms can create entry points. Early earning reinforces confidence, provides financial feedback, and motivates further learning. Income generated from skill development is both practical and symbolic, proving the link between competence and tangible benefit. Each transaction is evidence of value created in the marketplace. Invest in resources selectively. Use low-cost or free materials initially, such as online tutorials, community workshops, or library books. Avoid expensive courses until the skill and commitment are proven. Resources should amplify learning efficiently, not act as a substitute for effort. Strategic investment magnifies returns, while blind spending on tools or courses without application wastes limited resources. Discipline in resource selection mirrors discipline in time and attention, reinforcing intentionality across all dimensions of skill development. Establish small performance benchmarks. Define what success looks like week by week. For instance, completing 3 mini projects, mastering a specific technique, or earning a small payment. Benchmarks provide clear targets, maintain focus, and measure improvement objectively. They transform abstract learning into a structured trajectory, preventing stagnation or drift. Small benchmarks, when consistently met, accumulate into substantial competence over months. The process of achievement recorded and reviewed keeps momentum high and discourages distraction. Harness the power of public accountability. Share progress with a trusted friend, family member, or community. Announce milestones and report completion of tasks regularly. Public accountability reinforces discipline because the social context creates subtle pressure to perform. It also encourages reflection, discussion, and reinforcement of best practices. When action is observed by others, commitment strengthens and effort becomes a visible, structured habit rather than a private aspiration. Anticipate and plan for obstacles. Life on a low income brings external challenges such as irregular schedules, fatigue, and financial stress. Identify potential barriers to daily practice and develop strategies to overcome them. This may include shorter but focused sessions, flexible timing, or alternative practice locations. Preparation minimizes disruption and maintains momentum. Mastery is built in the context of reality, not ideal conditions, and the disciplined mind anticipates challenges rather than being derailed by them. Create a growth-oriented mindset alongside technical skill. Treat setbacks, mistakes, and slow progress as learning opportunities. Every challenge is a diagnostic signal showing where improvement is needed. Avoid self-criticism that paralyzes. Instead, analyze objectively and adjust strategy. Viewing the journey as a process rather than a fixed timeline builds resilience, sustains effort, and enhances learning efficiency. The mind becomes both student and engineer, continually optimizing practice and application. Over time, integrate complementary micro-skills. Once the core skill is solid, identify small adjacent abilities that increase value or efficiency. For example, a web designer may learn basic SEO or graphic editing. These complementary skills enhance versatility, attract more clients, and increase earning potential without diluting focus. Expansion occurs logically from the foundation, reinforcing competence rather than scattering effort. Each addition strengthens the overall capacity to produce measurable results in the marketplace. Reflect on income generated versus effort invested. Analyze which applications of the skill produce the most tangible benefit. Shift focus to high-impact actions. Efficient practice ensures that time and energy are leveraged optimally, enhancing both skill and income. Discipline in evaluating return on effort aligns behavior with purpose, maximizing the utility of scarce resources. Continuous adjustment ensures that growth is both strategic and sustainable. Finally, embed this process as a daily habit until mastery is second nature. Skill development on limited income is a long-term investment that compounds quietly but powerfully. Each day's effort contributes incrementally to competence, confidence, and capacity to generate income. Over months and years, a single focused skill can transform financial potential, open opportunities previously inaccessible, and shift the trajectory of life. The combination of disciplined practice, reflection, feedback, and practical application turns scarcity into leverage, limitations into opportunity, and effort into measurable growth. Mastering one income-growing skill is the cornerstone of financial progress on a low income. Concentrated, disciplined effort, replaces anxiety with capability. Every hour dedicated to learning, every task completed, every feedback applied, builds tangible value. Skill development transforms potential into action, effort into results, and scarcity into opportunity. The process is relentless, precise and practical, yet profoundly empowering. Focus, consistency, and deliberate application are the tools through which one person can expand opportunity, increase income, and create a foundation for sustained financial stability and personal growth. Number 5. Replace excuses with consistent action. Progress rarely occurs in the presence of excuses. Every excuse, no matter how justified it may feel in the moment, is a roadblock to growth, stability, and opportunity. Excuses shift responsibility outward, allowing circumstances, other people, or perceived limitations to dictate outcomes. Consistent action, on the other hand, reclaims control, even in difficult conditions. Replacing excuses with deliberate, repeated effort is a conscious choice to prioritize results over comfort, to prioritize possibility over hesitation. The process requires honesty, self-discipline, and a commitment to turning intention into observable outcomes. The first step is to recognize the full spectrum of excuses. Excuses often disguise themselves as rational explanations. I don't have time. I don't have enough resources. The system is against me. I'm too tired. Or I'll start tomorrow. These statements feel valid because they point to external causes, yet they all share a common thread. They postpone responsibility. Cataloging excuses as they appear in thought or conversation allows the mind to separate emotional reaction from reality. Awareness is the first tool for transformation because it converts unconscious patterns into conscious choices. Once excuses are identified, challenge them with evidence. Ask, is this universally true, or is it a limitation I am imposing on myself? Time, energy, and resources are often perceived as absolute constraints, yet many individuals have achieved progress under far more challenging circumstances. By comparing perceived limitations with observed possibilities, excuses lose their persuasive power. Evidence-based thinking forces the mind to confront the discrepancy between narrative and capability, opening space for action. Each challenge to an excuse strengthens resolve and diminishes mental resistance to effort. Replace abstract intentions with precise, actionable steps. Vague goals, like I want to improve or I need to earn more, invite delay. Actionable steps define exactly what will be done, when, and how. For instance, instead of saying I'll start saving money, commit to I will transfer $5 into a savings account every day before dinner. Specificity eliminates ambiguity, creating a clear bridge between intention and behavior. Action becomes unavoidable because it is mapped in concrete terms, leaving less room for rationalizations or procrastination. Adopt the principle of micro-actions. Large goals often trigger excuses because they feel overwhelming. Breaking objectives into small, manageable tasks allows for immediate progress. Even minimal effort, when repeated consistently, accumulates significant results over time. For example, writing a paragraph each day toward a project, learning a single skill component daily, or saving a small fixed amount each day contributes to measurable outcomes. Micro-actions reduce the psychological space for excuses because effort becomes digestible and habitual. Develop a schedule anchored in discipline. Excuses thrive in unstructured environments, where decisions are made in real time under pressure. A routine that designates specific times for tasks, learning, or productive effort removes indecision from the equation. Structure converts intention into action by predetermining the when and how. Over time, repetition transforms activity into habit, and habit reduces reliance on willpower. Consistency grows naturally when action is embedded into daily rhythm, bypassing the need for justification. Accountability is a powerful counter to excuses. Share goals, progress, and challenges with someone who will hold you responsible. Reporting tangible steps, completed tasks, and results reinforces action. Social visibility reduces the appeal of rationalizations because excuses become visible and harder to maintain. Accountability, whether through mentors, peers, or digital tracking systems, creates an external layer of discipline that supplements internal commitment, ensuring consistent behavior even when motivation wavers. Track results meticulously. Recording effort, progress, and outcomes allows the mind to see the consequences of action versus inaction. Quantifiable feedback replaces subjective judgment and excuses with clear evidence. This feedback loop is critical because it demonstrates that small repeated steps produce meaningful results, reinforcing the value of action over hesitation. Tracking transforms abstract commitment into a measurable trajectory, making excuses increasingly irrelevant as the evidence of capability accumulates. Introduce immediate response to emerging excuses. When the mind presents a reason to delay or avoid, acknowledge it without judgment and follow with a predetermined action. For instance, if fatigue triggers a thought of skipping practice, immediately execute a shorter, focused session instead of postponing entirely. Responding instantly to excuses trains reflexive action, reducing the habit of deferral. This discipline strengthens mental resilience, showing that effort is possible even under imperfect circumstances. Action becomes a default rather than a choice. Visualize consequences of continued inaction. Reflect on what happens if excuses continue unchecked. Missed opportunities, stagnant income, deteriorating skill, and compromised stability. Contrast this with the cumulative effect of consistent effort, growth, capability, and increasing autonomy. Visualization is a cognitive tool that converts abstract possibilities into concrete incentives. The mind is wired to respond to potential outcomes. Seeing both paths clarifies the cost of excuses and the value of consistent application. Motivation becomes informed by reality rather than fleeting emotion. Develop a reward system tied to action, not results alone. Celebrating effort reinforces behavior, particularly in early stages when outcomes may be slow to manifest. Each completed step, regardless of size, strengthens the habit of action, builds confidence, and counteracts the temptation to justify inaction. Rewards do not need to be extravagant. Recognition, journaling accomplishments, or small symbolic markers of progress are sufficient. Rewarding action embeds satisfaction into the process itself, not just the outcome, reducing the psychological appeal of excuses. Prepare for environmental and emotional triggers that encourage rationalization. Interruptions, stress, fatigue, and social distractions are natural and inevitable. Anticipate these triggers and plan concrete responses, such as having a workspace free from diversion, using brief, focused bursts of effort, or scheduling recovery periods. Reducing friction and creating supportive conditions amplifies the likelihood of consistent action. The strategy is not avoidance of difficulty, but strategic preparation to maintain performance despite challenges. Adopt a mindset of ownership. Every situation, resource, and limitation is reframed as something within personal control to influence, rather than an external force dictating outcomes. Excuses dissolve when responsibility is internalized. The shift from "things happen to me" to "I act within my circumstances" transforms energy from complaint into effort. Ownership is a philosophical as well as practical principle. It converts perception of scarcity or limitation into a domain where skill, persistence, and ingenuity produce tangible effects. Integrate reflection at the end of each day. Analyze where excuses appeared, how they were addressed, and what could be improved. Reflection strengthens self-awareness and fine-tunes strategies for consistent action. Without reflection, patterns repeat unconsciously and excuses regain power. Regular analysis ensures that each day becomes a learning cycle, reinforcing the ability to respond to challenges with deliberate effort rather than rationalization. Cultivate a bias toward immediacy. Execute tasks as soon as conditions reasonably allow, avoiding the trap of waiting for the perfect moment. Excuses often thrive in anticipation, creating false barriers that delay action. By adopting the principle of immediate application, momentum builds, and small wins reinforce the habit of execution. Delays shrink, effort becomes habitual, and the mind internalizes action as the primary response to opportunity. Embed consistency as a central value. Understand that single instances of effort are insufficient. Transformation occurs through repetition. Commit to showing up every day, even in minimal capacity, and treat absence from action as the true cost of excuses. Consistency compounds over time, turning minor daily steps into substantial long-term outcomes. Discipline is not occasional, it is sustained. Each day without deferral strengthens identity as someone who acts rather than rationalizes. Finally, recognize that replacing excuses with action is not an instantaneous change. It is a continuous practice that grows stronger with each deliberate decision. Over time, excuses weaken, effort becomes habitual, and results become inevitable. The act of showing up consistently, regardless of discomfort or perceived obstacles, transforms mindset, builds competence, and opens doors that inaction keeps closed. Action is the antidote to limitation, the force that converts intention into reality, and the foundation upon which financial stability, personal growth, and freedom are built. Consistent action eliminates the space in which excuses thrive. It establishes momentum, builds resilience, and creates tangible progress. Each deliberate step accumulates, reshaping circumstance and identity simultaneously. The habit of action, reinforced by discipline, feedback, and reflection, ensures that barriers are met with effort rather than rationalization. Replacing excuses with consistent action is not merely a strategy, it is a lifestyle, a framework for navigating scarcity, maximizing potential, and achieving meaningful success. Number 6. Create systems for money decisions. Managing limited income effectively requires more than willpower. It demands structured systems that guide every financial choice automatically, minimizing mistakes and mental fatigue. Without systems, every decision becomes a potential point of failure, and scarcity amplifies stress. Systems act as frameworks for action, converting abstract financial principles into reliable routines that produce consistent results. When money decisions follow an established process, discipline becomes effortless, choices are deliberate, and resources are allocated optimally, even under pressure. Building these systems is not complicated, but it requires thoughtfulness, intentional design, and repeated application to achieve reliability. Begin by mapping every category of financial decision you encounter. These can include spending, saving, investing, bill payment, debt repayment, emergency fund allocation, and discretionary purchases. Understanding the landscape of your financial life is crucial, because you cannot systematize what you do not clearly see. Listing all areas exposes patterns, reveals gaps, and identifies points where impulsive behavior could derail progress. Visibility transforms chaos into manageable components, laying the groundwork for structured action. Next, establish clear rules for each category. Rules should be simple, actionable, and enforceable without emotional negotiation. For instance, allocate a fixed percentage of income to savings immediately upon receiving payment. Establish thresholds for discretionary spending, such as no single purchase over $10 without evaluation. Define priorities for debt repayment, ensuring high-interest obligations are addressed first. Rules create boundaries that guide behavior automatically, preventing decision fatigue and reducing the mental burden of constant choice. Automate wherever possible. Modern tools such as bank auto transfers, recurring bill payments, and digital budgeting apps allow systems to operate without requiring daily attention. Automatic allocation to savings or debt repayment ensures that critical financial actions are not skipped due to distraction or lack of willpower. Automation removes the dependence on motivation alone, embedding consistency into the flow of life. It converts intention into action with minimal ongoing effort, freeing mental space for strategic thinking rather than tactical compliance. Integrate a decision hierarchy into your system. Not all financial choices have equal impact. Identify high-leverage decisions, such as emergency fund contributions, debt repayment, and major purchases, and prioritize them over low-impact decisions like minor indulgences or non-essential subscriptions. A hierarchy ensures that scarce resources are directed toward actions that produce the greatest benefit. This structured approach aligns every choice with long-term stability, making financial behavior purposeful rather than reactive. Design triggers for each rule. Triggers are cues that prompt action automatically, ensuring that the system functions reliably. For example, receiving a paycheck triggers an immediate transfer of savings, paying a recurring bill triggers a review of the remaining budget, or the receipt of a cash gift triggers allocation into emergency, necessity, and discretionary categories. Triggers transform abstract rules into real-world behaviors by linking decisions to observable events, reducing reliance on memory or motivation. Over time, triggers internalize the system, embedding habits seamlessly into daily life. Include feedback loops in every system. Track outcomes, monitor balances, and evaluate adherence regularly. Feedback reveals where the system is effective and where adjustments are needed. For instance, if discretionary spending consistently exceeds limits, refine the rule, adjust allocations, or add additional checks. Feedback ensures the system evolves with changing circumstances and reinforces accountability. A system without evaluation stagnates. Active reflection converts structure into continual improvement. Standardize evaluation criteria for decisions. Each financial choice should be measured against defined objectives, necessity, cost-effectiveness, and alignment with long-term goals. For instance, before making a purchase, ask, does this serve a core need, or does it advance a critical objective? Standardization prevents inconsistent or emotion-driven choices, ensuring that every action is compatible with overarching financial priorities. Decision-making becomes predictable, rational, and aligned with desired outcomes rather than scattered by impulse. Establish contingency protocols. Life is unpredictable, and even the most disciplined systems can encounter disruption. Create clear guidelines for handling emergencies, unexpected expenses, or income fluctuations. Decide in advance which accounts to tap, how to adjust discretionary spending, and which non-essential actions to delay. Contingency planning reduces anxiety during unexpected events and prevents reactive behavior that undermines long-term stability. A system that anticipates disruption is resilient, flexible, and capable of sustaining performance under stress. Integrate mental and emotional strategies into the system. Financial decisions are not purely logical. Emotional triggers often drive spending. Build practices that intercept impulse, such as mandatory reflection pauses, visual reminders of goals, or journaling for awareness. By embedding emotional management into the system, choices become deliberate rather than reactionary. The mind gradually associates financial behavior with rational assessment rather than immediate gratification, reinforcing consistency and reducing the influence of stress or temptation. Simplify the system to maximize usability. Complexity undermines adherence. A convoluted framework encourages bypassing or neglect. Focus on essential rules, automations, and triggers. A simple, repeatable process is easier to follow, monitor, and maintain consistently. Complexity may feel thorough, but in practice it often introduces errors and excuses. The goal is not sophistication but reliability. A system that functions flawlessly with minimal cognitive load is far more valuable than a detailed but impractical structure. Segment funds to reinforce decision clarity. Divide income into designated accounts or virtual categories, reflecting your priorities: essentials, savings, debt, discretionary, and investment. Segmentation provides immediate visibility of resource allocation and prevents misallocation. When money is compartmentalized according to purpose, spending decisions align naturally with priorities. The visual separation itself acts as a behavioral cue, making deviation from plan more noticeable and less likely. Leverage repetition to build automaticity. Systems are effective when they become habitual, requiring minimal conscious effort. Through repeated application, rules, triggers, and routines internalize into default behaviors. For instance, transferring a portion of income immediately each month or reviewing expenditures every weekend eventually becomes automatic. Once automatic, the system frees mental energy while producing consistent outcomes. Habitual application ensures resilience even during periods of stress, fatigue, or distraction. Include evaluation of opportunity costs. Every financial choice carries implicit trade-offs. Integrate systematic reflection on what is foregone by each decision. This awareness encourages prioritization and disciplined allocation of resources. For example, choosing to spend on a minor luxury may mean delaying skill building or savings contributions. Systems that account for opportunity costs embed strategic thinking into everyday behavior, transforming money management from reaction into proactive planning. Document every aspect of the system. Written processes, checklists, and templates ensure that execution remains consistent over time, even under pressure. Documentation also provides a reference for review, adjustment, and accountability. Recording decisions, actions, and outcomes transforms abstract intentions into concrete, auditable steps. The habit of documentation reinforces clarity and discipline, creating a persistent, reliable framework for long-term financial management. Train adaptability into the system. Conditions, income, and goals change over time. Ensure that each element can be adjusted without undermining overall structure. Flexibility maintains functionality while accommodating new priorities, unexpected opportunities, or temporary setbacks. A system that is rigid may collapse under pressure, while an adaptable system maintains performance and reinforces confidence in disciplined management. Finally, integrate reflection as part of the routine. Evaluate effectiveness, compliance, and outcomes at regular intervals. Adjust rules, triggers, and allocation based on observed results. Reflection is the engine of improvement. It converts repetition into intelligence, ensuring that systems do not stagnate. Over time, the framework becomes both instinctive and strategic, guiding all financial behavior with minimal effort, yet maximal impact. A systematized approach converts limited resources into stability, leverage, and predictable growth. Creating systems for money decisions transforms scattered effort into consistent progress. It reduces the cognitive load of daily financial choices, protects against impulsive or reactive behavior, and channels limited resources toward priorities. Through clarity, automation, triggers, segmentation, and feedback, decision-making becomes reliable, measurable, and adaptable. Systems replace stress with structure, indecision with clarity, and scarcity with strategic opportunity. Mastery of financial outcomes emerges not from occasional wisdom, but from repeatable, disciplined frameworks that guide every choice toward long-term stability and growth.
Number 7. Use tiny savings for momentum.
Building financial stability on an extremely low income is not about waiting for large windfalls or relying on big, improbable gains. It begins with the smallest, consistent actions, tiny savings that accumulate over time to create momentum. The principle is deceptively simple. Small amounts, when disciplined and repeated daily, generate tangible results, reinforce habits, and cultivate a sense of control over money. Momentum is not about size at first. It is about consistency, visibility, and psychological reinforcement. Every small saving is both a practical step towards security and a signal to the mind that progress is possible. Start by identifying amounts that are manageable yet meaningful over time. Even $1 or $2 per day, or a fraction of every paycheck, can serve as a starting point. The key is to choose a figure that does not trigger stress or compromise essentials. When the savings are comfortably small, resistance is minimal, and execution becomes habitual. Consistent action is more valuable than large, but sporadic effort, because habits compound in ways that sporadic attempts cannot. Small, consistent deposits strengthen both financial position and self-discipline simultaneously. Create a dedicated space for these savings, separate from everyday accounts. A small savings account, a digital wallet, or even a physical envelope can serve as the repository. Separation is crucial because it prevents the temptation to spend, clarifies progress visually, and reinforces the psychological association between saving and growth. Each contribution, no matter how minor, becomes a visible representation of discipline. Over time, the balance grows steadily, creating both practical and motivational reinforcement. Leverage behavioral strategies to reinforce contributions. Linking savings to triggers in daily life ensures automaticity. For example, every time a small purchase is forgone or a minor expense is reduced, immediately transfer the difference into savings. Treat savings as a mandatory step rather than an optional act. This approach converts small decisions throughout the day into cumulative action, creating a powerful feedback loop. Behavioral consistency is the core of momentum, as each repetition reinforces identity as someone who takes control over resources. Visualizing cumulative progress amplifies motivation. Even tiny amounts, when tracked and summed over weeks or months, reveal their true impact. Seeing a balance grow from seemingly insignificant contributions into meaningful funds validates effort and encourages continuation. Visual reinforcement converts abstract principles into tangible reality. Momentum is not only financial, it is psychological. Each visible increment reinforces the belief that change is possible, even under constrained circumstances. Pair small savings with low-risk, short-term goals to generate immediate feedback. For instance, setting a goal of accumulating $20 in a few weeks creates a near-term target. Achievement of these small goals generates satisfaction, reinforces discipline, and encourages the continuation of effort. Momentum builds when accomplishments are acknowledged and leveraged to take subsequent action. Small wins trigger the brain's reward system, which associates disciplined saving with positive reinforcement, strengthening the habit. Use tiny savings strategically to unlock larger opportunities. These funds can be allocated to emergency needs, minor investments, or skill-building resources. Even modest amounts can be used to purchase tools, learning materials, or start small projects that create additional income streams. The principle is that small deposits not only accumulate, but can also be leveraged to create incremental growth. This transforms savings from a passive act of restraint into an active tool for empowerment and opportunity creation. Anchor savings to recurring habits. For example, make it a rule to contribute to savings every time you receive income, complete a task, or reduce a discretionary expense. Consistency converts small actions into routine behaviors, minimizing reliance on motivation or willpower. Habits, once established, reduce friction in execution and allow momentum to continue even when external circumstances fluctuate. Repetition compounds effort and embeds saving into daily life without requiring constant deliberation. Reflect regularly on the impact of cumulative savings. Periodic review of the balance, growth rate, and opportunities unlocked enhances awareness and strengthens commitment. Reflection also allows adjustments. If contributions can increase slightly, or if certain habits could be optimized, small improvements can amplify results. Feedback loops reinforce intentionality and maintain momentum. Reviewing progress transforms abstract effort into measurable accomplishment, solidifying both discipline and confidence. Encourage incremental escalation. Once small savings habits are solidified, gradually increase contributions as circumstances allow. Even a minor increase, such as adding a few cents or dollars, compounds significantly over time. Escalation should remain proportional to comfort and sustainability, avoiding strain that could trigger regression. The growth of effort mirrors the growth of results. As capability expands, so does impact. Momentum thrives on careful scaling rather than abrupt, unsustainable leaps. Integrate tiny savings into a broader system of financial habits. Use them as the foundation for budgeting, expense tracking, and debt repayment. By anchoring larger systems in small, consistent actions, the entire financial structure becomes more stable and reliable. Tiny savings are not isolated acts, but integral components of disciplined money management. Each deposit contributes to broader goals, linking daily behavior to long-term strategy. Pair saving with visualization of long-term objectives. Even modest contributions, when pictured as building toward tangible goals, emergency funds, small investments, educational resources gain greater significance. Visualization transforms minimal effort into purposeful action. Momentum is enhanced when the mind sees the link between current behavior and future stability or opportunity. Every small increment becomes meaningful, reinforcing identity as someone who can create positive change through consistent, deliberate action. Utilize accountability to strengthen commitment. Share savings milestones or progress with trusted peers, family members, or financial communities. External recognition, even modest, reinforces habit formation. Accountability ensures that small savings are not overlooked or forgotten, and that momentum continues without regression. Social reinforcement amplifies intrinsic motivation, creating a dual-layered support system for habit persistence. Combat temptation by redefining small wins. When faced with the urge to spend on minor desires, view restraint as an achievement. Each decision to save, even a fraction of income, is a tangible contribution to growth. Psychological framing converts restraint into progress rather than deprivation. Momentum is fueled not by occasional large gains, but by repeated small victories, each reinforcing the capacity for disciplined action. Track patterns of expenditure that feed small savings. Identify micro expenses that can be redirected into the saving system, minor indulgences, daily conveniences, or discretionary items. Redirecting even a few cents consistently creates cumulative impact, transforming everyday choices into incremental wealth creation. Attention to detail in small-scale behavior magnifies results over time. Awareness converts habitual spending into conscious allocation, amplifying the power of tiny contributions. Build resilience to setbacks. Occasionally, unexpected expenses may reduce or temporarily halt savings contributions. Momentum is not destroyed by brief interruptions. It is maintained through recovery strategies such as resuming contributions immediately or adjusting slightly without abandoning habit. Understanding that consistency over time matters more than perfect execution reinforces persistence. The system grows stronger because it is designed to withstand fluctuation, maintaining long-term progress even under stress. Finally, integrate reflection and planning into the tiny savings process. At regular intervals, assess cumulative impact, adjust contribution levels if feasible, and identify opportunities to enhance the system. Each reflection reinforces the habit, converts small actions into strategic growth, and keeps momentum intact. Tiny, disciplined savings are both a practical method for resource accumulation and a psychological engine that powers consistent effort, discipline, and confidence. Over time, these small repeated actions compound into significant financial stability, creating leverage, opportunity, and a sustainable foundation for growth. Using tiny savings effectively transforms limitation into progress. It demonstrates that meaningful change does not require large resources initially, but begins with discipline, repetition, and deliberate allocation. Each incremental contribution, no matter how modest, builds confidence, reinforces control, and produces cumulative results. Momentum arises from persistence, habit, and strategic application, converting small wins into a powerful engine for financial resilience and long-term empowerment. Number 8. Choose environments that encourage discipline. Discipline is less about sheer willpower and more about the environment in which daily decisions are made. Humans are profoundly influenced by surroundings, both physical and social. If the context constantly tempts distraction, waste, or poor habits, maintaining consistent action becomes unnecessarily difficult. On the other hand, environments that support focus, responsibility, and prudent choices make disciplined behavior more natural, automatic, and sustainable. Selecting or shaping environments to encourage discipline is not a luxury. It is an essential strategy for anyone seeking to escape financial limitation, build productive habits, or consistently improve life circumstances. Start by assessing your current environments in detail. Identify spaces where you spend time, the people you interact with, and the routines you follow. Examine which aspects promote progress and which undermine it. For example, cluttered spaces, noisy settings, or high-stimulation digital environments often reduce focus and increase impulsive behavior. Social circles that normalize procrastination, overspending, or passivity subtly reinforce the very habits that limit growth. Understanding the influence of environment is the first step, because awareness allows for intentional adjustments rather than blind adherence to existing patterns. Control your physical space to align with desired outcomes. Clear, organized surroundings reduce cognitive friction, enabling decisions to follow logic rather than impulse. Designate spaces for specific activities, work, learning, savings management, exercise, or reflection. When each area has a clear purpose, the brain associates it with productive action, making discipline easier to sustain. Remove distractions, unnecessary temptations, or clutter that trigger avoidance or indulgence. Even small changes, like keeping bills in a dedicated folder or having a clean work surface, reinforce habit and provide subtle cues that encourage follow-through. Leverage social environment intentionally. Surround yourself with people who model behavior you wish to emulate. If income growth, self-improvement, or financial prudence is your goal, associate with individuals who exhibit discipline and strategic thinking. Social norms strongly influence actions. Positive peer pressure can accelerate habit formation and maintain accountability, while negative influences can quietly erode progress. Engage in communities, mentorship, or social groups that prioritize consistent effort, skill building, or financial responsibility, as these networks provide both encouragement and practical guidance. Create digital boundaries that support discipline. Technology is a primary vector for distraction, impulsive spending, and time mismanagement. Structure digital spaces to minimize interruptions and align with productive goals. Unsubscribe from channels or notifications that prompt wasteful behavior. Limit exposure to tempting advertising and curate feeds that provide educational or motivational content. Use apps that monitor and restrict screen time when necessary. Digital environment modification reinforces mental clarity, allowing focus and disciplined behavior to dominate cognitive resources instead of reactive impulses. Integrate routines that leverage environmental cues. Consistency thrives when actions are linked to predictable contexts. For instance, reviewing finances each morning over a cup of tea, journaling goals in a dedicated notebook at the same desk, or exercising in a specific area of the home all create automatic triggers for disciplined behavior. Over time, the brain associates these environmental cues with action, reducing reliance on deliberate effort. Habits solidify because the context itself prompts the response, making discipline effortless relative to its absence. Minimize exposure to scarcity-driven stresses. Environments that constantly signal danger, lack, or competition amplify reactive thinking and undermine long-term strategy. Financially constrained circumstances are stressful by nature, but external clutter, excessive noise, or chaotic spaces intensify the mental load. Creating calm, orderly, and predictable surroundings reduces stress-induced impulsivity, allowing the mind to focus on proactive problem-solving rather than reactive survival behaviors. Environmental calm supports clarity, enabling disciplined choices to dominate daily life. Introduce accountability structures within environments. Position reminders, checklists, or visual markers that reinforce goals and track progress. A visible budget chart, a savings jar, or a habit tracker provides constant feedback and encourages consistent action. Environments that make progress observable, measurable, and unavoidable reinforce persistence. By externalizing accountability, the burden of memory and willpower is reduced, making it easier to sustain disciplined practices even during fatigue or emotional fluctuation. Consider environmental alignment with long-term objectives. Every space, schedule, and interaction should contribute toward the life being built. For example, a workspace with learning materials, a desk free from clutter, or access to supportive communities ensures that energy is directed toward growth rather than distraction. When environments reinforce strategic goals, the path to discipline feels natural rather than forced. Alignment transforms surroundings into allies instead of obstacles, amplifying the impact of every action. Design temporary yet purposeful micro-environments. Even when permanent change is not feasible, creating small, controlled spaces for specific tasks can dramatically improve discipline. A corner of a room for focused learning, a quiet cafe for planning, or a morning routine conducted in isolation can serve as incubators for productivity. Microenvironments provide predictable cues, reduce temptation, and create a framework for concentrated effort. Momentum generated in these focused pockets spills into broader areas of life, reinforcing habit formation. Cultivate resilience through environmental buffers. Disruptions are inevitable. Unexpected visitors, urgent tasks, or emotional stress can destabilize progress. Systems such as pre-prepared workstations, scheduled reflection periods, or contingency plans allow continued productivity despite interruptions. Designing environments with buffer capacity ensures that discipline remains possible even in adverse conditions. Resilient surroundings reduce friction, enabling the consistent pursuit of goals despite life's unpredictability. Leverage sensory elements strategically. Lighting, sound, and visual stimuli influence mood, focus, and self-control. Environments that are well lit, minimally noisy, and aesthetically orderly enhance cognitive clarity. Subtle changes such as removing clutter, using calming colors, or adding motivational imagery can reduce stress and reinforce concentration. Environmental design becomes a silent partner in maintaining discipline, shaping behavior without conscious effort. Small sensory adjustments create disproportionate effects on performance and self-regulation. Embed reflection and learning within chosen environments. Spaces that allow quiet evaluation, journaling, or progress tracking cultivate self-awareness and informed action. Reflection zones, such as a small desk with notebook and pen, or a quiet corner for mental review, provide opportunity to assess daily behaviors and refine strategies. Disciplined action is reinforced by awareness. Without a context conducive to reflection, mistakes repeat unnoticed, and momentum falters. Environment becomes a scaffold for continual improvement. Recognize the cost of negative environmental influence. Surroundings that normalize poor financial habits, procrastination, or reactive behavior subtly undermine even the strongest intentions. Unproductive social circles, cluttered spaces, or chaotic routines impose hidden friction that erodes discipline. Reducing exposure to these influences is as critical as building supportive spaces. Awareness of these costs allows for intentional displacement or mitigation, ensuring that energy is spent on productive action rather than combating environmental resistance. Finally, view environmental choices as a strategic extension of self-discipline. Every decision regarding physical space, social interaction, digital exposure, and routine structure shapes behavior, either supporting or undermining long-term goals. By deliberately cultivating environments that promote focus, consistency, and responsible decision-making, discipline becomes a natural byproduct of surroundings rather than a constant battle of will. Thoughtful curation of context transforms everyday life into a framework that makes deliberate action the default, creating fertile ground for financial stability, personal growth, and resilience. Choosing environments that encourage discipline is a force multiplier. It reduces friction, minimizes reliance on willpower, amplifies consistency, and reinforces strategic behavior. Physical spaces, social connections, digital landscapes, and routines all serve as tools in shaping behavior. By controlling and designing surroundings purposefully, the foundation for sustained self-mastery is established, making the path to growth, financial stability, and long-term success more achievable, natural, and resilient. Number 9. Learn directly from successful people. One of the most powerful accelerators for growth is observing and learning directly from those who have already achieved what you aspire to accomplish. Success leaves clues, and studying the patterns, strategies, and mindsets of individuals who have navigated challenges successfully can save years of trial and error. The key is not passive admiration, but active, deliberate engagement and intentional extraction of insights, habits, and lessons that can be applied to your own life. Learning from success is a shortcut that transforms observation into actionable knowledge, turning inspiration into practical implementation. Begin by identifying individuals whose achievements align with your goals. Whether financial independence, skill mastery, career growth, or personal development, choose mentors, role models, or successful peers whose path provides relevant examples. This alignment is critical because lessons are context-sensitive. Principles that work in one domain may not transfer effectively without adaptation. Studying those whose journey resonates with your objectives maximizes the applicability of insights and increases the likelihood of meaningful growth. Observe behaviors, not just outcomes. Success is more than wealth, titles, or accolades. It is reflected in daily routines, decision-making processes, emotional resilience, and consistency. Note how successful people manage time, structure their environment, handle setbacks, and prioritize actions. Focus on patterns rather than isolated incidents. Observing habits in action reveals strategies that are practical and repeatable, showing the underlying mechanisms behind results. These observations serve as a roadmap that can be translated into your own routines, scaled to your circumstances. Engage actively rather than passively. Passive observation, such as reading about someone's success or listening to stories, is less effective without intentional application. Take notes, reflect on lessons, and extract specific actions that can be implemented immediately. Break down complex strategies into manageable steps and experiment with them in your context. Active learning converts abstract inspiration into tangible habits, increasing the probability of measurable outcomes. The difference between learning and application determines whether observation leads to transformation or remains merely motivational. Seek mentorship wherever possible. Direct interaction, feedback, and guidance from successful individuals accelerate growth exponentially. Mentorship provides clarity, accountability, and insights that cannot be gleaned from books or videos alone. Even brief interactions, questions, or discussions can reveal subtle yet critical elements of decision-making, mindset, and discipline. Mentors offer perspective shaped by experience, enabling you to navigate pitfalls and identify opportunities with greater precision. A mentor's guidance compresses learning, turning years of experimentation into months of informed progress. Study failures as closely as successes. Every successful person has encountered obstacles, setbacks, and mistakes. Understanding how they responded, adapted, and persevered provides insight into resilience, problem-solving, and strategic thinking. Failures often reveal principles that success alone cannot, highlighting critical lessons about risk management, timing, and flexibility. Learning directly from these experiences equips you to anticipate challenges, avoid avoidable mistakes, and cultivate mental toughness. The narrative of overcoming adversity teaches practical lessons as effectively as the narrative of achievement. Analyze decision-making frameworks. Successful individuals consistently make choices that align with long-term objectives. Observe how they evaluate opportunities, manage risk, and prioritize actions. Study the mental models, criteria, and trade-offs they employ. By understanding their frameworks, you gain tools for structured thinking that reduce reliance on guesswork or impulse. These frameworks become templates for making high-quality decisions under pressure, helping you navigate scarcity, complexity, or uncertainty with greater confidence and efficiency. Engage in communities of high achievers. Surrounding yourself with driven, disciplined, and accomplished individuals enhances learning exponentially. Group dynamics encourage accountability, shared problem-solving, and exposure to diverse strategies. Observing peer behavior, participating in discussions, and collaborating on challenges accelerates skill acquisition and habit formation. The environment of achievement fosters a mindset of possibility and persistence, replacing limiting beliefs with tangible examples of capability and progress. Absorb mindset and philosophy, not just tactics. Success is sustained by attitudes, beliefs, and principles, not only short-term tactics. Study how successful people approach uncertainty, maintain focus, embrace discomfort, and balance short-term sacrifice with long-term gain. Internalizing these principles shapes thought patterns, emotional responses, and habitual behavior. Mindset serves as the foundation upon which tactical actions gain leverage. Adopting these perspectives allows you to interpret challenges as opportunities, cultivate patience, and maintain disciplined effort even when progress seems slow. Document insights systematically. Learning from successful individuals is only valuable if it translates into practice. Maintain a journal or log where lessons, observations, and actionable ideas are recorded. Review and organize insights regularly to ensure implementation in daily life. Systematic documentation reinforces memory, provides reference points, and creates accountability for translating knowledge into consistent action. Writing solidifies understanding and transforms passive exposure into an applied framework for improvement. Experiment with adaptation. Strategies and habits must be adjusted to your personal circumstances, resources, and goals. What works for one individual may require modification to fit your income level, skill set, or lifestyle. Treat insights as templates rather than prescriptions. Test variations, observe results, and refine approaches iteratively. Adaptation ensures that learning is not merely imitation, but a practical application that respects your unique context. Flexibility amplifies both sustainability and effectiveness of lessons drawn from others. Embrace humility and openness. Learning directly from successful people requires setting aside ego, acknowledging gaps, and committing to growth. It is not a contest, but an opportunity to absorb knowledge from experience and insight. Curiosity and willingness to be guided enable faster learning and deeper comprehension. Avoid the trap of superficial admiration. True engagement demands attention, reflection, and action. Humility ensures receptivity and maximizes the value of interactions with those ahead on the path you wish to travel. Focus on compound learning. Knowledge and habits acquired from successful people accumulate over time. Each principle, once integrated, enables the effective adoption of subsequent strategies. For example, learning time management enhances your ability to pursue skill development, which in turn increases income potential, creating a chain reaction. Compounding learning magnifies the impact of each interaction, observation, or lesson, accelerating progress and reinforcing capability even under constrained resources. Leverage direct observation to identify shortcuts. Successful individuals often develop efficient methods, optimized workflows, or creative approaches to challenges. Studying these methods can reveal shortcuts that bypass trial and error inefficiency. While imitation alone is insufficient, observation provides insight into what is possible and which strategies produce tangible results. Applying these insights reduces wasted effort and focuses energy on actions that consistently yield results, particularly valuable when resources are limited. Use storytelling and personal examples as instructional tools. Listening to or reading personal narratives from successful individuals contextualizes principles in real-world scenarios. Stories illuminate not only decisions and outcomes, but also the reasoning, emotions, and trade-offs involved. This enriches understanding beyond abstract rules, allowing you to anticipate challenges, internalize lessons, and mentally rehearse solutions. Narrative learning embeds knowledge in memory and makes concepts relatable, practical, and actionable. Finally, translate observation into relentless action. Knowledge alone is insufficient. Learning directly from successful people must culminate in disciplined application. Implement routines, experiment with strategies, and refine habits based on what you absorb. Consistency transforms insight into skill, habits into results, and exposure into meaningful progress. The combination of careful observation, structured learning, and disciplined execution creates exponential growth, allowing lessons from those who have succeeded to become powerful engines for personal and financial transformation. Learning directly from successful people accelerates progress by providing models, strategies, and insights that bypass years of avoidable struggle. Observation, engagement, adaptation, and disciplined action convert exposure into measurable improvement. By internalizing mindset, habits, and decision-making frameworks, and combining these with consistent execution, it becomes possible to leverage the experience of others as a catalyst for growth. Success is no longer distant or abstract. It becomes a source of guidance, a blueprint for action, and a practical tool for escaping limitation and achieving lasting results. Number 10. Turn struggles into daily progress. Life on an extremely low income is inevitably filled with challenges. Each day may present obstacles that seem insurmountable, unexpected expenses, limited resources, or moments of fatigue and doubt. Yet within these struggles lies the most fertile ground for growth. The difference between those who remain stuck and those who improve their lives is not the absence of difficulty, but the ability to convert every hardship into progress, no matter how small. Struggles are not just obstacles, they are opportunities for reflection, adaptation, and disciplined action. By approaching each difficulty intentionally, even the smallest victories compound into substantial transformation over time. The first step is to shift perception. Struggles are often framed negatively, as interruptions, failures, or limitations, but reframing them as opportunities for learning transforms the experience. Each difficulty can provide insight into weaknesses, inefficiencies, or areas for improvement. Recognizing this allows the mind to move from frustration to proactive problem solving. Daily struggles, when approached with curiosity and discipline, become feedback mechanisms that reveal patterns and areas where deliberate action can create measurable results. This mindset reframes scarcity not as a trap, but as a teacher. Break down struggles into actionable components. A financial setback, for example, may feel overwhelming if viewed as a single insurmountable problem. By dissecting it into specific elements, missed budget targets, unplanned expenses, or gaps in planning, you create clarity about what can be addressed immediately. Daily progress arises from tackling these components, one at a time. Micro actions, such as adjusting a budget, negotiating a bill, or finding a small source of additional income, accumulate into meaningful outcomes. Progress is not always dramatic. Incremental improvement compounds into transformation. Document struggles and solutions. Keeping a journal of challenges and the steps taken to overcome them transform experience into a practical resource. Over time, patterns emerge, revealing recurring obstacles and effective strategies. Reflection creates awareness and facilitates continual adjustment. The act of documenting provides a psychological anchor, allowing each day to contribute to long-term growth. Struggles become data points rather than discouraging experiences, and the narrative of progress becomes visible. Cultivate resilience through routine. When life presents obstacles, routines provide stability and a framework for disciplined action. Even in the face of scarcity, adhering to daily rituals, such as tracking expenses, reviewing goals, or dedicating time to skill development, ensures that progress continues regardless of external circumstances. Routines anchor effort, turning sporadic attempts into consistent, measurable outcomes. The predictability of structured action reduces the mental load caused by challenges and allows energy to be focused on solutions rather than chaos. Use obstacles as exercises in problem solving. Every difficulty offers the chance to practice creativity, adaptability, and critical thinking. Limited resources, for instance, force prioritization and ingenuity. Small wins achieved through resourceful thinking reinforce confidence and strengthen the ability to face future struggles. Each challenge tackled with intention becomes a demonstration of capability, building momentum and reinforcing a sense of agency. Daily practice of problem solving turns adversity into skill development. Apply reflection to emotional responses. Financial strain, setbacks, and scarcity often trigger stress, fear, or self-doubt. Observing these reactions without judgment allows you to manage them effectively. Emotional awareness prevents impulsive decisions that exacerbate problems such as unnecessary spending or avoidance of responsibilities. By regulating emotions, everyday's struggles can be approached rationally and strategically. Emotional control converts reactive moments into intentional progress, ensuring that mental state supports rather than hinders improvement. Leverage small victories to build confidence. Daily progress does not require monumental achievement. Paying off a small debt, saving a few dollars, or completing a task despite difficulty reinforces self-efficacy. Recognizing and celebrating these incremental wins strengthens the mindset needed to tackle larger challenges. Momentum grows when consistent, deliberate actions, however minor, are acknowledged as meaningful steps forward. The accumulation of small victories eventually surpasses the impact of rare, large achievements because it creates a sustainable rhythm of progress. Convert setbacks into lessons. Every struggle contains information about what works, what doesn't, and where adjustments are necessary. Instead of dwelling on failure, extract actionable insight. For example, if spending exceeds budget, identify the trigger, adjust strategies, and implement preventative measures. Each lesson learned becomes a tool that improves future decision-making. The ability to transform missteps into constructive action separates those who remain stagnant from those who steadily advance despite hardship. Integrate problem-solving into habit formation. Approach daily struggles as exercises in disciplined action. Set aside time each day to tackle persistent challenges, experiment with solutions, and refine methods. Habits formed through overcoming difficulties reinforce both capability and resilience. By consistently converting obstacles into routine action, the brain begins to associate challenges with growth rather than frustration. Habitual engagement ensures that progress is continuous, even under pressure. Develop a forward-looking perspective. While struggles occur in the present, their resolution contributes to future stability. Each small improvement, whether financial, emotional, or practical, creates a foundation for larger achievements. Visualizing how current efforts will compound over time enhances motivation and provides clarity about the significance of daily progress. Struggles become stepping stones rather than barriers, and a sense of purpose underlies every action taken. Use accountability as a reinforcement tool. Sharing progress, challenges, and strategies with supportive peers, mentors, or communities ensures that daily action is consistent. Accountability motivates persistence and creates external reinforcement for internal discipline. Feedback from those experienced in navigating similar struggles provides insight, encouragement, and validation, transforming solitary hardship into shared learning. Social reinforcement multiplies the effectiveness of efforts, making progress more tangible and sustainable. Turn financial limitation into a training ground for resourcefulness. Scarcity encourages careful evaluation of priorities, strategic allocation, and disciplined expenditure. By viewing low-income circumstances as an opportunity to practice efficiency, planning, and resilience, every struggle becomes a constructive exercise. Learning to achieve more with less develops mental agility, foresight, and practical skill, all of which create long-term advantages that remain valuable even as circumstances improve. Break long-term goals into micro-tasks aligned with daily capability. Large objectives often feel impossible when viewed as a single target. By segmenting progress into manageable steps, every struggle becomes a chance to accomplish something concrete. Daily completion of these micro-tasks ensures that even under constraint, momentum is maintained. Over time, these small, deliberate actions compound, producing results that once seemed unattainable. The perception of overwhelming difficulty diminishes when approached incrementally. Reflect on consistency, not perfection. Some days will present more obstacles than others, and progress may appear minimal. The measure of success lies in sustained effort, not flawless execution. By maintaining focus on what is achievable daily, even small actions accumulate into substantial transformation. Struggles are inevitable, but consistent engagement ensures that each day contributes positively toward growth. Patience and persistence are the keystones of long-term advancement. Finally, embed the principle that every challenge can generate momentum. When approached intentionally, each struggle, financial, emotional, or practical, becomes a catalyst for improvement. Daily reflection, disciplined action, incremental victories, and emotional management create a cycle where obstacles directly contribute to growth. By consistently applying this approach, adversity is no longer a deterrent, but a powerful engine for progress. Over time, the cumulative effect of turning struggles into deliberate action produces meaningful, measurable change, transforming scarcity into opportunity and difficulty into capability. Every struggle carries the potential to become a stepping stone toward improvement. Daily commitment to learning, acting, and reflecting ensures that no difficulty is wasted. Turning obstacles into progress requires discipline, strategy, and resilience, but it is the most reliable path to transformation. By embracing adversity as a consistent teacher, each day, even under extreme limitation, becomes an opportunity to grow, refine skills, strengthen character, and build the foundation for a more secure and empowered future.